Hey, what's up everyone? TNRI here. Today's guest is Ellis, co-founder and CEO of Beryl. Beryl is a shared mobility service that combines bikes, electric bikes, and electric scooters, all in one app. They are located over several locations in the United Kingdom. You can check them out at beryl.cc. Philip started at Beryl as a chief operating officer, together with Emily Brooke. They didn't start with the shared mobility, but with innovating the bike lighting technology, which saved thousands of lives. For the viewers from UK, next time you're riding the Boris bikes, there is a piece of Beryl somewhere there. So let's hear the Philip's journey.
Beryl is a UK-based micromobility company. So we operate bike share and electric shared scooter schemes all over England, really. And yeah, we've been around for a few years. We started life as a cycling company, and we developed products that help people cycle, really. You know, we always had a hypothesis that cycling was going to be a more important part of how people got around cities. And we started out by making products that broke down the barriers to cycling, focused on safety. And then we started implementing those products into some of the big complex bike share systems that were in the world at the time. So London, New York, Montreal, places like that. And that, I guess, is where we sort of did our apprenticeship in shared micromobility, although not that micromobility was a word back then. And then, we launched our own bike share services in 2019 and launched our own, e-bikes and electric shared scooter services earlier in 2020.
How did it start for you before all the Beryl stuff? You went studying in the Birmingham, for the law degree.
That's right. Yeah, I studied in Birmingham, which was a lot of fun. I had a great time. Yeah, I didn't really have any specific plans for my career. I just, I did a law degree, and then I worked in management consulting for a few years, although I knew that was not an environment that I was going to, it wasn't an environment for me in the long term, although it was an interesting place to gather some skills, undoubtedly. And then, I met Emily, who had this company, it was called Blaze at the time, and that was the bike light company. So that was back in 2013. I started working with her, and that company has evolved into what we're doing now.
Because how did the whole meeting with Emily happen?
Yeah, so she had done a Kickstarter for her bike light product, which is called the Laser Light. And then she'd done that, and she was starting to build out a team around that. So I basically applied to work in that organization. So I didn't know Emily before starting to work in cycling. Yeah, so she'd studied at university in Brighton, and had this invention for this laser light, and that's what sort of kicked off for her.
And you joined because of your passion for cycling then?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'd always been a cyclist, and I always thought that want to get out of the sort of corporate, very, very corporate world that I was in. And so, it seemed like a really interesting opportunity.
And you joined in as a COO. It's because of your operational background in Deloitte, I guess, yeah? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I mean, we were doing lots of normal sort of stuff, manufacturing in China, Chinese supply chains, dealing with retailers in Europe, direct to consumer, and just setting up general processes around the business at the time was sort of the focus and the priority. Before then, we started working with in a sort of slightly different way with some of the big sort of enterprise customers that we have now.
You were even supplying lights to the Boris bikes back in the day as well, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. So I think that was in about 2014, 2015, we started supplying a device. That was just the laser light, which we rolled out in, I think it was 2014, which, as I say, is designed for safety. And we still have that product on all of our bikes. Indeed, it's on every single London bike. Every single London TfL Santander bike has a laser light, and nowadays it was also equipped with our own technology system, which does all the GPS tracking and sensor data, and a full smart bike system supporting software.
With the success of such product, why anyone else would be like, okay, we're getting money from this one, let's just stop. But what led to actually making the whole bike sharing company? Well,
I think, so this is around 2017, let's say, when Mobike and Offo were sweeping through Europe and America. It was really clear to us, having worked very closely with operators and transport authorities on bike share systems for a number of years, and having, been a consumer cycling company, understanding what cyclists expect from cycling in a city, it was clear, abundantly clear, that there was nothing that was going to work about the Mobike Offo model of doing things back then. Like, the quality of the bike was not good enough for people to want to cycle twice a day, every day. And like, that's what your target needs to be. It wasn't even good enough for people to want to cycle on it at all. You know, their deployment method was just not acceptable for transport authorities and local authorities in Europe and North America. And crucially, right, there was just not any like effective use of emerging technologies to control and deliver the service. So it was just quite clear to us that wasn't quite the right thing. But they did a fantastic job in many ways of going around all these local authorities and transport authorities, like selling the concept of bike share, selling the concept of micromobility. And so, yeah, that's why we were like, okay, well, we ought to do this. We know enough, we thought. We know enough about cities. We know enough about operating these systems. We'd certainly had the products already from delivering services to local authorities and operators. So like, yeah, we can totally do this ourselves. And this was at the time when the e-scooters were really booming across the world as well. So like the Mobikes and the Offos had gone and the e-scooters had come, which was great because it just like demonstrated that, you know, this industry and like, you know, it's still a thing, right? Even if the previous lot had not quite made it work, it's still definitely a thing. But obviously in the UK context, scooters have only been allowed very recently, and even then in quite a controlled way. And so that's why we're from a cycling background, and so we're now in a position where we think it's really important to be able to offer the full suite of micromobility vehicles to a city, to be an integrated partner. So, you know, bikes have a fantastic like long-term efficiency if you know how to do it, but more importantly, they meet all of the policy goals that a city has around sustainability and active travel. And like, e-bikes are important because they create new journeys, right? They open up a new journey that otherwise people might not have thought would be possible to make by bike. And e-scooters are an essential part of that mix as well, because they create new users, right? Like, the adoption curve is absolutely mind-blowing with how people get on these scooters. And for me, e-cargo bikes are a really valuable tool to meeting like big, ambitious carbon saving goals in a city. And so we offer all of those because they sit together. You know, you need the users, but you need to meet the policy goals of a city as well. So that's why we do that whole mix of micromobility vehicles in our schemes.
You were the CEO for up to 7 years and introducing all these different modes. How did it go?
Yeah, it's cool. Like, you know, we've built everything ourselves. So, you know, it's been very easy for us to apply our technology to new vehicles as we want. Like, we make the bike and we make the e-bike. That's our bike and our manufacturer. But we buy the cargo bike and we buy the scooter. Like, everybody buys their scooter. And so, like, yeah, we've been able to get into scooters and not have to deal with, you know, some of the really challenging operational issues. But there's still like a lot of challenges to scooter operation, but at least like the vehicles, by the time we started rolling them out, you know, this year, had like massively improved, right? Like, they don't disintegrate on street, and like the methods for charging them, whether it's on street or battery swapping, are like available and understood. So certainly, like, operationally, we're not having to take like ludicrous risk on when introducing these scooters, like those sort of pioneers of it did 2 or 3 years ago. And like, yeah, like operationally, we have long-term contracts with the cities in which we operate, like long-term exclusive contracts in the cities that we operate. So it gives us confidence to set up a decent operation.
The app as well itself, the software side of things, is also developed by you.
That's right. Yeah, everything we've built everything from the ground up. So the IoT unit that we have on our bikes and our e-bikes is built by us, and we sell that as a product as well. And yeah, the app is ours, the back end, everything about it.
Since you've been like a COO for up to 7 years, then did you already know that you're gonna get the CEO position?
Everything in the business sort of happened relatively organically in terms of our transition to being a full service micromobility company, a transition amongst myself and Emily, you know, all happened sort of organically and naturally and things like that. So yeah, no necessarily sort of grand plans, you know. It's not like sitting down on a coffee in 2012 or 2013, making these sorts of predictions, all sort of relatively fluid evolution. Also we were growing quite a lot at the time, so there was lots of, nobody's role was staying the same. I don't think, we were doing a lot of things differently, a lot more, you could say complexity in the business as we were growing, and so everybody was sort of just adapting to their different skill sets.
And how did the whole COVID period affect you from the start?
Yeah, well, I mean, so we launched 2 new schemes actually in March of 2020, and they were like really hairy, just like literally just getting them on street as you could feel this like impending doom. And so we were really pleased that we did manage to get those on street, along with the bike share systems we already had out, because obviously then, it's great to see people using bikes more over the summer in particular, and even now continued into the winter. I think it's really interesting. Like, it just shows if you create a safe environment for people, they will cycle, and like that's all that happened. Like, people weren't driving around and people's, making people feel unwelcome on the street, and so everyone started cycling. It was fantastic, and hopefully that's a policy lesson that we'll keep and we'll learn and apply it to all forms of micromobility, which I'm sure we will. Hopefully over the long term. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, as it has been for everybody, but obviously for us, launching scooters as well, launching e-bikes and things like that has been, it's been an interesting year.
And I see you are really busy. Do you have time to do things outside of work by any chance?
No. That's a bit unfair. No, that is a bit unfair. Yeah, of course, like I do bits and bobs. I got into kite surfing this year. I tried to. Like, I've been doing it a little bit for a few years, but then like this year I actually like invested in all the kit. So that's cool. We have a bike share system like on the south coast, 2 now actually on the south coast. So they're good spots for kite surfing. So that's pretty cool. And obviously I go cycling a fair bit. A friend of mine texted me this morning saying he's got Fridays off between now and Christmas, and I want to go for a bike ride, and it's like 3 degrees outside and sleeting, and I'm like, not really, but maybe in a couple of weeks, maybe, like if there's a nice cool crisp sunny morning or something.
Is there an inspiring person of yours by any chance?
I think everybody, I think a lot of people, if you're lucky enough to have the opportunity, and it's very like circumstantial, to really be able to focus on something, and for that thing to be something that you really enjoy, are really passionate about. Like, I think everybody would amaze themselves at like what they can do, but also like who is, I'm sure I'm inspired sometimes by people who would have absolutely no idea that I've been inspired by them, because they're just doing something that I think is cool, even if it's just for a moment.
Books to read that you would recommend?
The books I read are like, I'm not a big one for these entrepreneurship books and things like that. I read a lot of boring books. Like, I read a lot of classics. I read a lot of, my missus always winds me up for reading like boring books. Like, so at the minute I'm reading Far From the Madding Crowd, which is like a book I read to sort of help me go to sleep, which is a Thomas Hardy novel. Or I'll read like, some classics for a bit more fun, like Dickens and things like that. Or I'll read like Umberto Eco and or like Hilary Mantel, like history-based novels and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, my book choice is not particularly I wouldn't recommend it to you, actually. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody because it's like pretty boring. I think it's cool. I listen to like podcasts like Azim Azar and just different Harvard Business Review ones and things like that on my way into work.
And I guess last but not least, what would you, recommend to all the youngsters today?
You can make your own path very much, and I think that's always been true.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to like, comment, follow, and share. More content coming. Stay safe. TNRI out.